Hey man, the new Slate FGX2 makes mastering so easy, even you could do it. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Wavy Wayne from wavywayne.com. Now, this channel is all about helping you to record and mix better and faster. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new mastering plugin from Slate Digital, the FGX2. Before we do that, though, we're going to take a little overview tour of why mastering is important in modern music, a tour of the new plugin, and then I'll show y'all a workflow so you can master your song in just minutes, all right? So let's go ahead and jump off into it. First thing first, what is mastering's place in modern music? Well, historically, mastering was mainly to kind of make sure that your mix could be translated and played on different mediums. For example, you mix onto tape and then it's going to be put onto vinyl for records for people to play, or maybe even CDs or CDs and vinyl. So all these different mediums. But now in the digital age, that process of cutting wax is just not even what master engineers do anymore. So what do? They focus on enhancing the quality of your mix, right? Maybe some frequency enhancement, some stereo width enhancement, some saturation enhancement. They also balance out the frequency content to make sure that if you are listening on small speakers or giant stadium speakers, your mix will still sound good and translate. And also, you have to make sure that you're hitting the loudness targets of modern streaming services. So those are the three main principles of modern mastering. Now, let's take a look at the new Slate Digital FGX2 plugin. All right, so once you open up the FGX, you will notice that there are basically three main sections. You have the compressor, you have your metering section in the middle, and then over to the right, you have your limiting section, right? Now, over here on the compressor, you see we got the basic ratio, attack, release, and threshold. Basic compressor stuff. You might want to use this compressor to add like some glue to your mix or to smooth out those dynamics before you actually hit the limiter. In the metering section, this is going to give you all the metering information that you need. You'll be able to see your gain reduction on this graph here. You'll be able to see how many LUFs you're hitting for your streaming targets and all of that. You can even set these targets yourself so that your metering will change colors based off what your targets are. So, for example, if I said my target was -10, anything below that, above that would start, hitting the red, right? So I can basically set my top and my ceiling how I want to set it. Over on the right side, we have the FG level. This is where we're going to apply our limiting and some saturation into the mix, right? So really simple, and this is the easy mode. You can get more control by hitting this little button at the top and switching over to the advanced mode. In the advanced mode, you'll see that you can do mid-side compression using the FG comp. Over here, you have the low punch and detail, right? This is basically going to enhance the low frequency transients or enhance the high frequency transients, and you can set the different roll-offs, set the filters for those as well. You also get some transient drive and balance, right? That's not available when you're on that easy mode. So you can really dial stuff in, or you can just keep it really basic if you want to. You got your ceiling control, and of course you got these other modes down here that determine the response of the actual limiter itself. All right, so you got clear, tight, punchy, and loud, and those all are going to be based on your preference and the style of music that you're working on. Over to the right is we have some cool options here. We got our listen modes where we can listen to the difference and listen to what's being removed by the limiter. We can also just listen to the mid channels, solo the sides, or solo the left and rights. This button here is the constant gain monitoring. This is a great little feature to make sure that you are actually, when you're bypassing the limited version and the unlimited version, that you're actually able to listen and hear not just the loudness changes. So oftentimes when we hear changes in level, we'll perceive that to be better. But virtually, when you turn this on, when you bypass this plugin, everything stays the same at the same level. So you can actually hear what kind of artifacts are being introduced or distortion or whatever changes are actually happening to your mix, minus the loudness changes. The TPL is the true peak limiting. You want to make sure you keep that on so that you can have true peak limiting for your streaming services, right? And then you got your diddler over here and your output meter. Really simple to use and pretty straightforward. Now, let's take a look at some really cool feature that I think is really dope and a lot of y'all are going to love about this plugin. One, if you go over here to the presets, you hit the little preset button, you have two types of presets. So you got your audio presets, which will actually change how your audio sounds and how it's being processed. But for me, the more exciting thing is going to be these metering presets. If we go down to the streaming and drop down, you can see all of the updated requisites, what I guess the requirements for the different streaming services. So for example, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Deezer, right? We have all of these modern ones. So if I go ahead and say, you know what, I want to master this song for Apple Music, you'll see that my target has changed to -12. And so that when I'm looking at my metering, everything will be based off of that -12 assessment there with that -12 target. Now, of course, I got my range that it gives me a little bit of wiggle room to play with. If I go to Spotify, you see Spotify is a little bit louder and it's up to a -10, and it also gives you a little bit of wiggle room there. For me though, I'll probably start off with my Apple Music since it's at -12 and I have a range of 4 LU, that basically loudness units. I can plus or minus 4 and I'll still be in the green. All right. That is a quick look at the FGX2 plugin. That's our little tour there. Now let's talk about how I would actually use this. So basically I have a mix going on here. Let me just play a little bit of this. I kept it real simple on this so that we can just focus on the actual principles itself of this plugin. I don't want to get lost up in mixing stuff. I'm gonna play a couple of seconds of this mix and then I'll walk you through the process of how I would use this to master my song in just a couple minutes. I could play, yeah, plans got changed, had to pivot, but I could play every position. All right. So we can see that my lux is pretty low right now. This ain't what they wanted. It is not going to hit my target of -12. So one of the first things that I would start off doing is actually doing some compression and bringing some glue and kind of tightening up these mix while also restricting the dynamics of it. Now, I wouldn't go too hard with this compressor, and I would start off with like a basic attack and release kind of mid-time, but I would try to get no more than 3 or 4 dB of gain reduction. All right, so let's go ahead and make sure that we're doing that. I'm gonna start off by just adjusting the ratio and seeing the gain reduction that I could play. Yeah, plans got changed, had to pivot. Okay, we starting to get that meter to move. I surpassed every prediction. This ain't what they wanted for me, is it? To get more punchy, we're gonna have a slower release. Multiplying $1 million schemes. Take off, got took off from a dice game. P&B couldn't even rock his own chain. Yeah, they hate you when you whip, take up 2 lanes. I'm going crazy. To get more punchy on this, we want to do a faster release and a slower attack. I could play, yeah, plans got changed, had to pivot, but I could play every position. I surpassed every prediction. This ain't what they wanted for me, is it? Cause I got billionaire dreams, multiplying $1 million schemes. Take off, got took off from a dice game. P&B couldn't even rock his own chain. Yeah, they hate you when you whip, take up 2 lanes. I'm going crazy, they look at me like Hussein. Old players in the new game, cash still rules everything. Word to. All right, now that sounded pretty good. After I got my compressor set, the next thing I want to do is go over to my limiter here, the FG level. So for this one, I want to kind of start off by setting my ceiling. The ceiling is going to determine, how loud the overall mix is going to be. And for this, most of the streaming services are going to want y'all to be at about -1 dB true peak. So I got my true peak limiting turned on, and I got my ceiling set to that -1. From here, I'm just going to start to adjust the gain until I'm hitting some of the loudness, getting close to the loudness target that I want. As I do that, I can also go and affect a couple of other things if I need to. But first, let's go ahead and get that gain to where we want. I could play, yeah, plans got changed, had to pivot, but I could play every position. I surpassed every prediction. This ain't what they wanted for me, is it? Cause I got billionaire dreams, multiplying $1 million schemes. Take off, got took off from a dice game. P&B couldn't even rock his own chain. Yeah, they hate you when you whip, take up 2 lanes. I'm going crazy, they look at me. Now, I could also use the low punch here to start enhancing some of my low frequency transients. And you typically want to do this after you've set that gain, after you hearing what the FG level is doing to your mix. So let's go ahead and enhance some of these low frequencies. I could play, yeah. Plans got changed, had to pivot, but I could play every position. If I want to bring out the snare more, I can hit the detail. This ain't what they wanted for me, is it? Cause I got billionaire dreams, multiplying $1 million schemes. Take off, got took off from a dice game. P&B couldn't even rock his own chain. Yeah, they hate you when you whip, take up 2 lanes. I'm going crazy, they look at me like Hussein. Old players in the new game, cash still rules everything, word to Wu-Tang. Alright, having vision is rare. From here, I'm going to adjust the mode, right? I think I want to go with the punchy mode for this boom bap type of song, but I'll cycle through each of these modes so we can hear the difference. I could play, yeah. Plans got changed, had to pivot, but I could play every position. I surpassed every prediction. This ain't what they wanted for me, is it? Cause I got billionaire dreams, multiplying $1 million schemes. Take off, got took off from a dice game. P&B couldn't even rock his own chain. Yeah, they hate you when you whip, take up 2 lanes. I'm going crazy, they look at me like Hussein. Old players in the new game, cash still rules everything, word to Wu-Tang. Having vision is rare, a bird's eye view, couldn't see it this clear. All right, we got this little snapshot button to where we can hear before and after, so I'm gonna play this. Let's go to B and see where we were at before we did these changes. I could play, yeah. Plans got changed, had to pivot. Okay. But I could play every position. I surpassed every prediction. This ain't what they wanted for me, is it? Cause I got billionaire dreams, multiplying $1 million schemes. Take off, got took off from a dice game. P&B couldn't even rock his own chain. Yeah, they hate you when you whip, take up 2 lanes. I'm going crazy, they look at me like Hussein. Now, if I wanted to increase the saturation on this, I could actually add a little bit of drive. Let's see what that sounds like. I could play, yeah. Plans got changed, had to pivot, but I could play every position. I surpassed every prediction. This ain't what they wanted for me, is it? Cause I got billionaire dreams, multiplying $1 million schemes. Take off, got took off from a dice game. I like that. P&B couldn't even rock his own chain. Yeah, they hate you when you whip, take up 2 lanes. I'm going crazy, they look at me like Hussein. Old players in the new game, cash still rules everything, word to Wu-Tang. Having vision is rare, a bird's eye view, couldn't see it this clear. They even shot the king from the rooftop, murder everything, but you can't make the truth stop. And just like that, this song is mastered and ready to go. I'm hitting my loudness targets, and I can start to bounce this down and upload it to any of the streaming services like Apple Music, Spotify, or Tidal. Now, do I recommend that you actually do different masters for each of the streaming services? Absolutely not. I'd say you pick one that's in the middle. And again, with that 4 loudness unit range, you'll be pretty close to wherever you need to be. So that's the main part. Just make sure that when you're done, that it's still dynamic and it still has the feeling that your original mix intended, and you will be good to go. So to wrap this up, I just want to point out again that, hey, mastering is not the dark art that it needs to be. Once you have a really good mix and it's ready to go, now you just need to really focus on making sure you're hitting your loudness targets. A plugin like the FGX2 really makes that simple and easy to accomplish without messing stuff up and getting all technical and complicated with things. Slate Digital just released the FGX2, which is part of the All Access Pass, or you can get it as a standalone. Visit slatedigital.com, log in so you can get it right now. I'll leave a link in the description. I'm Wavy Wayne from wavywayne.com. Let me know what you think about this mastering process. Is this going to make it easier and cleaner, more transparent for you? Let me know down in the comments. Be dope.